Like any other family, David and Jessy were having the time of their lives until they had a baby girl. From that moment, their dog Benji got very possessive and refused to let their daughter out of his sight. If they tried to remove her from the room, she would start barking anxiously. When David got to know about this new behavior, he was so shocked that he immediately called the police. The officers arrived within minutes. Benji was so protective of the baby that she had become her makeshift bodyguard. The first police officer came to the scene and looked into David's eyes. He knew that something was wrong. It seemed that the dog was smarter than he was. His dog was waiting for an opportunity to save his daughter from danger. The police officer told him that he should feel lucky because his pet is so smart. David knew he made a mistake and should have protected his daughter himself. Even if the dog is smart, it's still his responsibility as a father to keep her safe. After a while, the police managed to get the situation under control and called for additional units to help with the investigation. While they were investigating, they asked questions of both David and Jessy to try and piece together what had happened. Jessy was still in shock from the whole ordeal, but managed to give them a few details. They both were unaware that this much force would be needed to make any real change. When the police officer showed up at their front door, they were surprised to find out how serious the situation was. They had been called to investigate a disturbance, but upon arriving they discovered that it was much more serious than they thought. The situation had already begun to escalate by the time Jessy was pregnant. They had trusted the wrong people and it was starting to take a toll on their family. But what was the reason behind Benji's sudden change in behavior? And what was it that David found out that led to the large police presence? Jessy and David were planning to have a baby for a long time. They had everything planned out, but there was still something that was bothering Jessy. They were hesitant about how their dog would take the news of their newborn baby and having another human in her life again. Jessy had read many blogs about dogs who refused to accept new family members. She was petrified that Benji would become aggressive and attack her daughter when they first met. If things don't work out, Jessy may be forced to give Benji up for adoption, and she'll end up in an animal shelter where hopefully someone else will take care of her the way she does. When Benji got to know that Jessy was pregnant, he started barking at her belly. It looked like an unhappy and weird reaction rather than excitement or joy. Also, Benji had always been a very mellow dog, so this behavior was out of character. Jessy became scared of what might happen next. Both Jessy and David were puzzled by Benji's strange behavior, raising a lot of questions in their mind. Jessy got really worried that Benji might sense something wrong with the baby. They knew they had to find an answer soon before it was too late. Even though they were scared, they loved their dog and wanted to help her. Before it could get any worse, Jessy and David decided to take Benji to the vet. They had no clue regarding the strange behavior of their dog, but they knew that something was definitely wrong. They didn't want to take any chances and thus decided to get him checked out as soon as possible. Choosing between their dog and daughter would not be an easy choice for the family. They would have to think about what was best for both of them and make a decision that would ensure their safety. The vet couldn't give them any answers, so they would have to wait and see what the future held for their family. If necessary, they would bring the dog to an animal shelter so that both could be safe. In the end, it would all come down to what was best for both of them. The veterinarian had some medical checks done on the dog to make sure she was healthy and did not have any diseases. He advised David to take Jessy into town for medical checks at least once before delivering the baby. This was to ensure that both Jessy and the baby would be healthy. After David told Jessy about the vet's advice, she began to freak out. She was worried that something might happen to the baby if they didn't go see a doctor right away. David assured her that everything would be okay and that they would go see a doctor as soon as possible. Right away, Jessy called Anne and asked for her help. Anne was the one who had helped Jessy during the whole pregnancy period, and now she needed help getting to the hospital. Anne agreed to help, and within minutes she was at the arrival. In hospital reception, Jessy was told to go in. After all the necessary checkups including ultrasound, the doctor sat Jessy and David down to talk with them. The doctor said nothing wrong with them, but they still didn't have the answer to what had caused their dog to start barking at that both Jessy and the baby were perfectly healthy and that there was Jessy's belly. After getting home, Jessy went to her room and started crying. She was feeling miserable because she didn't know what to do. Should she give away her dog or keep her and risk something happening to her baby? Anne came into the room and sat next to Jessy. She told her that everything would be alright and that she will be there for her no matter what decision she makes. After knowing Anne's decision, Jessy felt relieved. She knew that she could always count on her best friend to help her through anything. Fortunately, Jessy gave birth to a healthy baby girl who they named Lily. But Benji didn't stop there. She continued to act strange. Even more bizarre behavior started occurring. Everything is going smooth in the family now and Benji seemed to have calmed down. But one day when the parents started working and left their daughter with Anne, something strange happened. Anne immediately contacted them and instructed them to come home as soon as possible, without giving any further details. When the parents arrived, they found out that their dog refused to leave their daughter's side. It was like Benji had become her own special child and was taking care of her. David, the father, was amazed by this and couldn't help but wonder why his dog had been chosen specifically to take care of their daughter, and called Jessy and told her that their pet dog has attacked her because she had separated them when she went downstairs. It seems that Benji was just being overprotective and David knew what to do in order to make sure that this would not happen again. But this time, Jessy and David were more confused than ever. David once again took his dog to the vet because of the last incident. The vet advised him to check if something was wrong with his brain. If it's not a medical problem, David might get some ideas from the shelter. Who knows, maybe their dog is just lonely and needs a friend. Additionally, the vet told David that maybe he and Jessy were the problem. The way they act around Lily when she's trying to sleep makes Benji restless and confused. David didn't accept the vet's opinion that they were the problem. He knew there was something else going on, but he just couldn't put his finger on it. One day, both David and Jessy observed their dog and baby girl together. What they saw made them sad, but also a little bit relieved. Benji was overprotective of Lily, but it was clear that she loved her. Also, Lily seemed to absolutely adore the dog. They knew that it is hard to say goodbye to a pet with whom you have such a close bond. David remains puzzled about why this is happening, but he soon realizes that his dog, Benji, has been sleeping with Lily every time. He initially thought that the dog was just being overprotective. However, when Anne informed David that his dog had bitten her, David's mind clicked and he understood that the problem was not with his dog or Jessy. David finally realized that the problem was with Anne. Whenever she came around, Benji would get agitated and try to protect Lily. He does not know why his dog dislikes her, but he is sure that there must be a reason, and that is the main reason why Benji has been sleeping with Lily. Jessy told David that he needed to calm down and stop being so paranoid. She explained that Anne was not the problem because Benji also didn't like when Lily was left alone at night. David knew she was right, but he still couldn't help but worry about what could happen if Anne was left alone with Lily. After thinking about it for a while, Jessy came up with the most genius idea ever, installing cameras around the house to keep an eye on Benji and Lily. This way, they could watch over them and make sure that nothing bad happened. And if something did happen, they would be able to see it and take action accordingly. David had to face his fears and admit that he was afraid of what Anne might be doing when he was around. While installing the cameras, Anne seemed very suspicious of him and she started to question David about why he was doing this. David didn't want to tell her the truth, but he knew that he had to in order to keep an eye on her. For some days after that, David observed both Benji and Anne. He noticed that his dog seemed to be very protective of Lily, so David decided to confront Anne about it. Afterward, David had a serious talk with Anne. He asked her what was wrong and what she had been doing with her daughter. Anne again tried to play quiet, but David was not convinced. He told her that he knew she had been up to something, and he wanted to know what it was, but she still denied any wrongdoing. After a while, they started arguing about the whole situation. David was getting frustrated because Anne was not giving him any answers, and the more he pressed her for information, the more she denied knowing anything. In the middle of the argument, Anne finally lost her cool and started yelling at David. She accused him of being too controlling and demanded to know why he was always trying to tell her what to do. She mentioned that the dog had been acting more aggressively since Jessy got pregnant. When Jessy got to know about the argument, she was very angry. She thought that David was being too paranoid and she asked him to stop accusing Anne of being a threat to their daughter. When he didn't listen to her, she gave him an ultimatum: either figure it out quickly or get rid of Benji. David didn't want to get rid of his dog, but he knew that he had to find out what was going on. The same night, David was having a headache and he desperately needed answers. Anne had hinted something that day that could help him, but she didn't say anything more than that. However, David knew where he could find the answer: the night footage from the cameras. He decided to take a look at it and see what had happened. When David started the software to view the footage, he was shocked to see that the footage from that night was completely erased. Even all the footage from the other nights was gone. He couldn't understand what could have happened, but he knew that someone had deliberately erased it. He wondered if Anne had something to do with it. Anne was noticeably nervous and jumpy last night. Could she be the one who was coming in and erasing the footage? But why would she do that? David couldn't think of a single reason why Anne would want to erase the footage. David got more and more suspicious of Anne as time went on, but he needed proof before he could confront her again. So, he took this responsibility on himself and started making separate backups of the footage from each night. He was extra careful to make sure that Anne didn't find out about it. Then he waited for the next opportunity to catch her in the act. The next night, David was eager to watch the footage again. He hit the play button and saw something enter the room through the window. David was disturbed by what he had seen, but he knew that he had to find out more about this thing. He was determined to get to the bottom of this mystery. As David watched more of the footage, he was shocked by what he saw. He had never expected anything like this to happen, and it completely caught him off guard. He felt his heart racing as he tried to process what he saw and eventually had to call the police for help. David was in complete disbelief at what had happened and could hardly believe his eyes. David had seen something strange and mysterious in the footage, and he knew that he had to call the police. He quickly explained what he had seen, and they told him that they would immediately send all available officers to his home. He knew that he had just discovered something huge, and he was feeling a mix of shock and fear. David made a call to her wife Jessy to let her know about the situation and to ask her to come home. Jessy could hear the fear in his voice, and she knew that something was wrong. She told him that she would be there as soon as possible. David showed Jessy the footage, and she was just as shocked as he was. Also, within minutes, the first police officer arrived at their doorstep. The police officer appreciated the fact that David had called them so quickly. They reviewed the footage and saw the same thing that David had seen. They were completely baffled by what they were seeing. However, one thing was certain: they told David and Jessy that they live with the best dog in the world. Her sense of smell and hearing is amazing. Then the police officer asked about Anne. They want to meet her and ask her some questions. David and Jessy told them that Anne is not present at the moment, but they promised to call her and ask her to come home as soon as possible. They asked some questions about Anne, and Jessy told them everything she knew. At the same moment, Benji was upstairs guarding Lily. When the police officer went upstairs, she started barking at the wall. It was clear that she wanted them to follow her and see what she had found. It looks like there was something hidden behind the wall that Benji is trying to tell them about. And the police officer couldn't wait to see what was hidden behind the wall, so they decided to destroy the wall and see what was inside it. They were shocked after seeing what was inside. And what was even more shocking was that there was a hidden compartment behind the wall. They found a safe inside the hidden compartment. It was a small safe, but it was clear that it was very heavy. Jessy and David had no idea what could be inside the safe. They asked the police officer to open it, but he told them that he needed to call an expert to crack the code on the safe. Jessy came to know about the Anne being a fake person when the police officers told her that they found no records of any Anne in the whole city. Jessy was devastated by this news. The 10 years of friendship that she spent with Anne were all a lie. She felt like she didn't know who she was anymore. The safe was still a mystery, but Jessy had a feeling that it was connected to Anne in some way. After some time, the safecracker came to open the door of the safe. While opening the door of the safe, Benji was barking at it. It seemed like she could smell something or feel threatened somehow by what was happening in front of them. When the safecracker opened the door of the safe, everyone was shocked by what they saw inside it. They found a lot of money, jewelry, and other valuables inside the safe. But the most shocking thing was that they found a picture of Anne on a passport. It was a fake passport, but it was clear that Anne was using a false identity. Jessy was completely shocked by this discovery. She had no idea who her friend really was. The police officers told Jessy and David that Anne, who's actually Elizabeth Holmes, is an international spy who is wanted by 17 countries for espionage. They said that she was a very dangerous person and they needed to find her as soon as possible. Jessy was in complete disbelief. She couldn't believe that her friend was actually a criminal. It was clear that Anne/Elizabeth was after the information that David had access to as director of a national security company. She had been using Jessy and David for years in order to get close to him and gather intelligence. The fact that she was able to fool them for so long is a testament to her skills as a spy. The night footage being wiped was obviously to cover her tracks and prevent them from discovering her true identity. She also tried to crack his computer password in order to get access to the information she was after. Benji is a hero for foiling Elizabeth's plan and helping to expose her true identity. That is the reason why Benji was acting so strange around her. Benji could sense that Anne was not a good person. Elizabeth might have succeeded in her plan if Benji had not been there to warn them. David is grateful to have such a loyal and brave dog by his side. Thanks to Benji, they made David dig into what was going on and they found out the truth about Elizabeth. Fortunately, the police officer managed to find Elizabeth before she could leave the country. She was arrested and taken into custody. This was a huge relief for Jessy and David. Elizabeth already knew that she was caught and there was no way out for her, and she told them that it was all a game for her. Benji was a real winner here. He saved Jessy and David from being victimized by a very skilled international spy. Both Benji and Lily grew up together and they are the best of friends. They bonded over their love for each other and their love for adventure. Even though they are different species, they share a special connection that is unbreakable. Benji will always be there for Lily like she has always been there for her. From now on, Jessy and David are more aware of the people around them, and it is thanks to Benji that they have her to thank.